Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com, contact me through there, respond to this podcast, find me on social media. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. To sponsor a Voices of Parenting podcast episode, please reach out to energizinghearts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So I am back with Yehudit Sarah today to talk again and hear more of her wisdom. And if you haven't listened to her the first episode with her, please go back and listen because there was so much wisdom. It was such a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And like I said last time, Yehudit Sarah, you have such a just open, gracious, loving, you are like a gracious, loving space and heart. And it's such a delicious thing to just sit. It's funny how we're not even in person, but it feels like, we're sitting together in this day and age. It feels like we're sitting together and just be in your presence. So we were talking.
I feel that too. It's just so enjoyable to get to talk to you. Thank you for that.
It's really so nourishing for me. That's why I do this podcast, because I get to talk to people that I respect, and it gives it like it's on the calendar. It happens, and then other people get to benefit too. So it's fantastic. Yeah. So we were talking a little bit after the last episode and just between the two of us, about something that we don't talk about that much in Nurtured Heart. We do say, Nurtured Heart is for all children. Nurtured Heart helps all children flourish. And actually, the Nurtured Heart trainer that gave me my very first training that I went to, my very first official training, she shared this during her training, that her children were not the troublemaking type. They didn't, make it obvious to staff that they were struggling or anything like that. They were more quiet and reserved and just kind of got through their life trying to be good and do what's right. And they kind of felt invisible with that. So I kind of heard that from her. But the normal kind of presentation of the intense child or the difficult child is a kid who's acting out, not acting in, but acting out, where they are very obviously creating a non-working situation for the people around them that forces the people around them to say, "Ooh, we need to do something." They're announcing to the world through their behavior, "I'm not okay. I don't like this. Something needs to change. Y'all are not serving me right." Like there's something here. That's kind of the normal presentation. And we wanted to kind of talk about and lean into the maybe quieter presentation of a child who maybe acts in. I don't know if that's a real term, but I think it speaks for itself. A child who's acting in instead of acting out. A child who is not showing the world what's going on inside, which sometimes is maybe even more dangerous and scarier because it's so silent, what they're going through, and the people around them miss the opportunities to help them and reach them in ways that would be effective at helping them to blossom in their lives. So I love that. I love this kind of, it's like half. It's not even like a smaller percentage. It's a huge percentage of the kids we deal with, and just kind of walking into what that's like. So yeah, so Yehudit Sarah, tell us more about kind of where this is coming from for you, like what experience you've had with this, or kind of when you open your mind to this, or what made you feel passionately about this.
Okay, so one is because I was that child myself. We resonate with the kind of child that we were. I was quiet. I didn't get into trouble. I was a good girl, really. And I think in my whole life, maybe my parents punished me once for something, and in school, I happen to love my teachers. So I often got attached to a teacher, in a certain way. But I feel like kids who are quieter can easily be overlooked. They can hide too, and that is dangerous. It's like I had a child in my class one year. She was she was a selective mute. She was quiet. She would not even talk. So of course that got attention, especially from her parents who were understandably extremely worried about her. So my view was, okay, let's just be with it. She'll talk when she's ready to talk. Happened to be that she had a cousin that was in the class. And so sometimes like I could figure things out with him if I really needed to know something about her. Sometimes I would say to her, like, look, I really would love to hear from you. I don't really know how you're feeling about something. You could write it down for me. You could share it with me. You could whisper it to me. So it took a long time for her to be able to do that, but she did start opening up. I don't know why she was a selective mood. I mean, that wasn't part of our conversation. But what was hard, her parents put a lot of energy into it. And so one time she had some kind of altercation with someone else in the class, as kids do. It wasn't a big deal to me, but her parents were so upset that they came in and talked to the principal about it. And I had to do a lot of resetting of myself and working with the principal to sort of help them trust that we could really work it out in the classroom, that I didn't have to change her seat. I think we made some kind of accommodation to help them, without letting the kids know, to help them feel calmer. But it was so clear to me that they were undoing, things for her. But any case, the problem was she was quiet and she wouldn't talk up. So she's the kid, you could have easily overlooked her and not bothered with her because she wasn't making any trouble, right? Um, so dealing with children like that made me realize, like, or even the classroom, like there are kids who are average kids. They're good kids. They show up, they do their work. So because of positive recognitions, like we know to kind of pepper each kid with not just one or two kids, but it's easy to overlook those kids when other things are going on that call your attention. So this was a sweet story. I had a child once in one of my first years of teaching. It was in second grade. She was like not a particularly good student really, but she did her work. She put in effort. She was a positive child. Fast forward many years, my first time I had to go for a colonoscopy. When I came out of anesthesia, she was the one who brought me apple juice and a snack. And I was like so thrilled because like she grew up, she was doing this beautiful job. She was making a contribution. Like there's no one else I would have wanted to be there besides her in that moment. Like when, you're foggy and did everything go okay? And she was still positive and her clearly like the doctor she worked with and the nurses loved her. So, these kids, they grow up to do wonderful things in their lives. And they deserve more recognition and more attention from us. I also had one of the things I loved to teach was writing, and there's this writing teacher named Donald Graves who was like a mentor to many teachers, and I had heard about him through workshops I went to. So he had this idea that I always loved and took to heart. He said at some point when you're teaching, maybe a month or two into the school year, sit down, make a list of all the kids in your class. Don't look at your class list, just make a list and write down a few things that you know about each kid. Not how they're doing academically, but like some things you know about them as a person, like maybe their interests or maybe something about their family life or, something that they that they really love. So when I did it, it was always so instructive because inevitably there was one or two kids that I forgot or that I left till later in the list. Like I would go over the list. I'm like, wait, I have 25 kids and I only have like 22 names. Who am I forgetting? And that was instructive because it told me that those are kids that I need to pay more attention to. Like they're not on my radar and I need to show them and pay attention to them and get to know them better or have more relationship with them or, find out more about them. Because for whatever reason, I'm not picking up on them. They're quiet. They're going under the radar. So, yeah.
Wow, that's gorgeous and so practical too for teachers and anybody really. The kid who comes to your attention first is probably the kid that's getting the most attention from you.
Right.
And it's so understandable for teachers and parents to not consciously unintentionally focus on those kids because it's such a relief. Finally, the kid we don't have to worry about, the kid who's fine, you know. I'll share personally, in my story, my personal story. I was a star student. I was always, exceptional in everything I did. It was very important to me to be exceptional in everything I did. And at the same time, and I kind of explored this later in life to the point of like being able to articulate it. But there was this level of redundancy I felt about myself. Like I had a self-confidence. I knew that I had really good qualities and that really good talents, and that I was good at things. I saw that I was good at things. I was better than my peers at some things. Like I saw that. I knew that I would get picked for jobs. Um, but there was this level of like, so what? Like it doesn't make me
Mm.
um, needed, or it doesn't make me belong because it's redundant. It's nobody needs it. Like I'm great, but nobody needs it. It's extra. The world doesn't need it because yeah, there was that certain feeling of invisibility. Being picked for a job or getting an award, and I got so many awards, um, doesn't make you feel seen on a heart level the way really being known does. It's relationship. It's not really attention. It's not really your name being on an award roster or something. It's being seen as who you are, and that's so powerful what you're saying of like go through that list and like do you know something about everybody? Like people didn't need to know things about me necessarily because they knew that I was doing great, apparently. And yet I felt so alone and invisible under all of that confidence and excellence. So it's super powerful and intentional. And it does take, it's like when we're in survival mode because we've got so much chaos and intensity in our classroom, we feel like we're just putting out fires. It's like we barely have time to take care of that. How in the world are we supposed to see those other ones? But the hope is that we do find the times and the ways to not be putting out fires all day. Hopefully we can find a way to shift that energy with our energy. Listen to Yehudit Sarah's other podcast. That was great. But to also to have that intention to really see each individual. Each individual is here. Like look at that nurse, or I guess, or whoever, whatever her role was. Look at her. Look at who she became. Look at her grace and her gentleness and her, who she was. It's like those are such beautiful characteristics that we absolutely do need and absolutely do contribute and absolutely are so wonderful. And then there's also this other piece of it where kids who are maybe struggling more acutely than maybe I was, I kind of maybe hid under my self-confidence and felt like I was doing great, in my opinion of what was needed of me. When, let's say I struggle with, friendship, and I struggle with, maybe I'm bullied at school, or maybe, I don't have any friends and that's really hard for me, but I excel at academics, and all day long people are telling me how amazing I am, that I got academically, that I'm excelling, that I got a good grade. And again, the teachers are holding up my tests and putting them on the board to say like, this is what it would look like. And then on the playground, I'm being picked on and I don't have friends and I'm not part of the game. And my parents are so proud of my grades, so proud of my grades. It makes me feel less seen and more invisible and less cared about, that characteristics that come so easy to me and I'm not even working hard on and are just like, whatever. Like, yeah, so I'm smart, so I get good grades. I don't even try. It's easy. School is easy. But do you know what's really going on for me? Do you know that I'm like miserable in this other area? Like the truth of my greatness isn't that I got a good grade. The truth of my greatness is that I go to school every single day knowing that I am going to face bullies on the playground, or knowing that I don't have a friend group to sit at lunch. That is my greatness, that I'm pushing through something so hard that no child should ever have to push through, that I still can be kind to my siblings even though people are mean to me, or whatever. But like to really hone in on what the reality is for the child, not just what they're presenting, takes a level of attunement and sensitivity that's harder and more intentional for us, but is everything to a child being seen and knowing how valuable they are in the world.
That's the thing. We don't always know what's going on. We're not mind readers. I mean, and so some kids help us know by how they behave, but some kids know. And you look at, I was saying, look at you. You became somebody who grew up and are doing these podcasts and talking to people and seeing them and being seen yourself. Wow, it's so amazing that that's the direction you went in. Thank God. But I remember one child I had, this was, before Nurtured Heart, but she was that perfect student. She really was. She was just a gem. She acted beautifully to people. She was soft spoken and quiet. She excelled academically in everything. When she was in high school, I found out she had tried to commit suicide, and I was devastated. She didn't. And I believe she got the help she needed. Thank God, but that was devastating. Who would have known what was going on inside of her? And I don't know what triggered it. I didn't keep up with her after elementary school. I didn't, I didn't see her family. So, but that was devastating. We don't want that to happen. I had one child who, one year, who also was this quiet child. She had a form of epilepsy where she would sometimes just kind of freeze and fall. She could fall. And so we were careful with her on the playground. And also when we went up and down steps, I always made sure somebody was kind of, tracking her, near her. And that was a source of discomfort for her, but we made it into something that was not a big deal. Okay, that's part of who you are. We'll take care of it. But she had a lot of trouble in social relations, and she couldn't speak up when she needed help. And that's so she didn't know how to do that. And that's one thing that happens sometimes with kids who are quieter. They don't know how to get what they want, how to be assertive. So I always found iMessages to be really, really helpful thing to teach children. A totally wonderful tool. So one time she was having a problem with someone and she would cry about it. And then her mom also was. Sometimes, parents are so worried that they can, inadvertently give attention to that. So I tried to soothe her mom that we were going to help her with it. And so I taught her how to do iMessages, and I even taught her how to be assertive. I said, you can say it like this: I'm upset because you, whatever the person did, and I want, so she would start to do that. And we did start to make progress with her, with that. She started to gain more confidence. That's what she needed. And I remember one time she just brought a snack for the class. She also found out that she was a kid who, her mom took in animals. They loved animals. And so she would share about them. And that was so important to her, so, but I remember she needed that support to be able to work things out for herself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we spend so much time finding regulating skills and teaching regulating skills for those kids who don't know how to regulate. And what about those kids who don't know how to be assertive and don't know how to speak up? It's and it's so relative to the person. There has to be that understanding. One kid needs to shout louder, and one kid needs to reset their shouting.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yes, some kids they need help to show who they are, to showcase themselves. So one of the things we did we often did projects, and I love to celebrate that because it is important, in a school setting, especially, to celebrate the work that kids are doing. So when we would do writing, we would have a publishing party. So every child had something that they wrote, whether it was a narrative, a piece of persuasive writing, a biography, whatever it was that they wrote. And we would invite the parents, and I also invited another class to come in, sometimes the same grade, or sometimes older kids, and they would, so that kids got to share their work, but people would circulate around the room and go to every child and either read the work with the child standing there, or the child could read it to them, and they would write a comment for them. Those kids loved that so much because it was a way for every single kid to be seen and heard, no matter what their level was, no matter how good or not good their writing was. They had produced something. We used to do the same thing with science projects. Our school had a fair. So every year we would do a science, math, technology expo, and every class did a project based on something. And the kids all got to expose their work. And when they had the fair, parents and other people would come, lots of kids, and they would circulate around, and our kids were the ones explaining the work. So even the kids who were quieter or, not always showing up, they would explain the work. And when they would do the teamwork, often it was like, it wasn't always the kids who were like the most loud or necessarily doing the best, but sometimes the skills that other kids had were the most important skill in the team in putting something together. So giving kids lots of opportunities to shine is also like so important for everybody, right?
Yeah. And I think the power of a nurtured heart in it not having an agenda of outside expectations that dictate when there's greatness. Like it's like, well, when you check off this, then we recognize you. But being able to have the skill to find greatness in the child that already exists, that skill and notching up that skill helps so much in building up these quieter kids, because if it can resonate with them that they're already contributing and they're already showing up and that they are seen for who they are and not just, the surface level, oh, you were quiet in class today. Well, duh, I'm too scared to speak up. That doesn't help me feel, safe. But I can find where they do speak up, or I can find where they are assertive, or I can hone in on their special interests, like you said, or give them opportunities to shine. That opens the door for them to know that they matter too, as they are, and that they can feel that inner wealth in them and growth in them.
Sometimes those kids, sometimes there are different behaviors that they show. I mean, the one who's quiet, but sometimes there are kids who whine. And sometimes that is coming from being quieter and not getting what you want. So you turn inward and you like whine to get it's not like out there disrupting anybody, but it's like inward. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's our people pleasers who do attach themselves to the adult and are constantly seeking approval and trying to guess what the adult really wants and doing it, and they can get hurt from that too. They can get burned from that too, because it can get annoying for the adult to constantly be asked to approve of everything. Like, yes, you did it. Good. Okay, move on. Like, hey, you're great. Good. And then it's like, I want to celebrate maybe, I want to celebrate failure, or I want to celebrate imperfection. I want to celebrate just going with the flow, whatever, to just give them permission to be the fullness of themselves. Yeah, there's so many practical things that I feel like we could, I would love to add to this, but maybe we'll do a part 2. We'll see. Thank you for being here. If people want to reach out to you and connect with you and glean from your wisdom and experience, how can they do that?
Thank you. So they can contact me at janet.waller@gmail.com.
Okay. There
Thank you.
you have it. Yeah. Thank you so much. And until next time. Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have, that you appreciate about yourself.